Hello, this is Morgan Pierce, and it is Sunday, March the 18th, and my co-host Jillian Gotzel and I are here to present to you Good Week and Bad Week in Crypto. Jill, kick it off.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off with some good news. There was a lot of excitement this week in Hashcraft. They call it the next protocol, the next generation blockchain. It's produced by Swirls, but it's been up until now a private ledger. The founder, Lehman Baird, says it's faster, it's much cheaper, and plus also it's much more eco-friendly. So there's a lot of claims made, but in a private environment. So the 13th of March, they had a big, huge launch in New York, and they announced their public ledger. So it's now called the Hedera Hashcraft protocol, and it's headed up by Mance Harmon. And it was a lot of excitement, a lot of buzzing going around. And I have to disclose that I am a Hashcraft ambassador for Ireland. I'm a PRO for Mingo, and Mingo at the same time announced that they're building their messaging aggregation platform on the Hashcraft platform. So lots of excitement, very positives. And the nice thing is that they're doing alphas at the moment, tests, because all their claims have been done in the private environment. Now they're putting it out into the public, and they will be able to see and to prove, hopefully, that all their claims are true in the public environment when they announce their beta coming very soon. So lots of exciting times there.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Hashcraft as I would like to be, but I've heard some really phenomenal things about its eco-friendliness and its sort of better, cheaper, faster, and a more dynamic way of storing data permanently than blockchain. So I'm really interested in seeing what happens with the technology going forward. So my first piece of news is that Google, in bad news, banned any advertising associated with cryptocurrency, ICOs, and even wallet advertisements. And then actually earlier today, there's a rumor flying around in the media that Twitter is going to follow suit. So we have Twitter, Facebook, and Google all coming down hard on the cryptocurrency world. My perspective on that is that they're nervous and they need to slow down the pace at which cryptocurrency is entering the market so that they can catch up and retool themselves to take advantage of what cryptocurrency offers. But it's really anybody's guess. They're all saying that it's to protect the public from making poor decisions. So.
Yeah. Bit crazy, really, isn't it? I mean, they're turning down all that advertising, and they don't turn down hardly any forms of advertising. They take all that money, and they are definitely nervous. They are hugely nervous. I agree.
That's a really good point, because what are they going to get advertising on? I mean, if they ban this, I mean, I'm sure the amount of cryptocurrency and ICO ad revenues recently has been quite substantial. So that's very. I didn't think of that.
At Christmas time, before Facebook cancelled their advertising, Zuckerberg had said it was his New Year's resolution to look at the whole world of cryptocurrency. So they're obviously looking at it and going, "Oh my God, we are going to miss the boat here."
Right. And then 1 month later, at the 31st of January, Zuckerberg pulled the.
Yeah. No, that makes no sense. No sense. Nanny state, here we come. So anyway, so in some good news to balance that pretty, because that's not good news. Well, it's good news for the industry because we know we're going in the right direction, but it just puts...
It's bad news. Yeah. I mean, it's hurting the market. We've seen the reaction from the market. It's
unnecessarily hurting the marketplace, yes. So anyway, but some good news with Binance, my favorite. As you know, I interviewed CZ in January, big fan of this guy. 3 pieces of news. Now, last week we heard about the hacking of the bot, and how they managed to stop it. That was very good. But he's now issued a bounty, an award of $250,000 for anyone who turns up the hacker. So that's good news. Secondly, the Binance exchange is actually a centralized exchange at the moment, and he wants to move it to a decentralized exchange, where, as I said, they lose control because anybody can list a coin on it. But it's very good for anonymity, of course, and also for security because it's no longer centralized, it's less vulnerable to hacks. Speed and liquidity can be issues. But in order to sort of fast track that, he's opened a competition. 2 days later, he said that they're launching a hackathon. They're calling it a Dexathon with prize money of $1 million denoted in their coin, the BNB. And people have up until June to submit their entries, and they can revise them going forward. What's quite nice too, as well, is that not only are people can get involved with this amazing exchange, but if you're not successful, you don't win, you may be given a job, or if you're a university, he may give you grants. So I think it's all around good news in that whole center, that whole area.
He's a very clever guy, isn't he?
Super guy.
Every time there's anything that's in any way sort of slightly negative, or, you know, as in last week's case, maybe more than slightly negative, he always comes back with something a whole lot stronger.
Yeah. And he's very transparent. He's there. He's available. He's bang on the button. So he's doing a great leadership role, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if he gets any sleep. Okay, so yours was good news. Well, I'm just going to keep going down my list. The IMF head, Christine Lagarde, wrote a blog post this week about how blockchain and cryptocurrency technology could actually be used in support of regulation. And I'm just going to read the sentence straight out of the blog so that I get it right. And she said that blockchain technology can be used to create registries of customer information and digital signatures that could be linked to biometric information. So in other words, the technology could actually be used to link your own biometric identity with your financial identity and with consequently the cryptocurrencies that you're involved with. So she sees it as a very positive thing to actually employ the same technology. And actually, I think the title of the article was "Fight Fire with Fire."
Well, good.
Kind of interesting, but I do see it as a positive turn of events that somebody that's as forward thinking as she is, and she's a cryptocurrency. She's not an embracer, but her perspective is these things are coming. We need to find a way to coexist in the world of cryptocurrency, because she can't see the cryptocurrency train turning back. You know, it's too far out of the bag, I think, that cat at this point.
Smart lady. And it's interesting that her country, France itself, is a bit negative. France, not so good. They announced this week, the French regulatory agency, the AMF, they have blacklisted 15 cryptocurrency and crypto asset sites. The reason given, they say that they've fallen foul of the SAPEN 2 law, which basically, they're basically saying that these sites are promoting securities and they should therefore be registered with the AMF. So that's not good news. It's not surprising though, because the governor of the Bank of France, he has come out before and he says he thinks that Bitcoin is speculative. It's not even a currency. It's not even a digital currency. And in the same government, the Minister of the Economy has compared Bitcoin to tulips. So there's a bit of a pushback. I think France is not being very forward in this regard.
Well, and they're probably following suit to the SEC that just issued all those subpoenas, right? 90 or so subpoenas to cryptocurrency companies that really look like securities more than tokens. And so I think that more of that, I always look at that, by the way, as positive, because I think the industry in and of itself does need to mature and become a lot more, I won't say regulated, because I think regulation the way we have it right now is too heavy-handed and it doesn't allow the individual to participate that, you know, that may want to. But I do think that some regulation needs to come in, because you know,
it is still a wild west.
It has been the Wild West.
Yeah, I agree. But let's have sensible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Work with the people in the industry.
Okay, my next piece of news is a couple of wrapped up in one article, but there's a gentleman by the name of Thomas Lee, and he used to be JP Morgan's chief equity strategist, but he left JP Morgan to start a crowd called Fundstrat, as in fund strategies. He's a co-founder there, and he is one of the only Wall Street analysts to actually consistently put information in the press about his predictions for Bitcoin. And he also came up with something called the Bitcoin Misery Index by looking at all of the history and seeing what happened in the marketplace before big growth points. And so two things about the article that was published in Forbes magazine this week. One is that he predicts that by 2020 that Bitcoin will be worth $91,000.
Wow.
And he has a chart to explain how that happens. But one of the things that he looks at is this Bitcoin Misery Index. And what he says is that the Bitcoin Misery Index, when it falls below 27, which is on a score of 100, 0 to 100, the lower it gets, the more attractive it is to buy Bitcoin. And so Friday, March the 9th, which is 9 days ago, the Bitcoin Misery Index was sitting at 18.8, and he was signaling that it was a very positive time to buy. Now, right now is a terrible time in the markets. We've had a terrible week. I think pretty much anybody who's listening to this has been suffering in the same way that I have. But I will just say this. There are a number of things happening in the market this week that are keeping everything down. The first big news was that for 5 months we've been waiting to hear who the next governor is for the Central Bank of China. And that was announced this morning. In fact, it was just announced a couple of hours ago. And so a gentleman by the name of Yi Gang has now been named as the successor. And he's been in the Central Bank of China for the last 12 years and working as the number 2 guy. So I think that's all positive. His commitment is to continue to reform the Chinese financial system, and he's very technologically savvy. So I think that could be really positive. His nomination will not be confirmed until tomorrow, but hopefully we'll see some positive movement in the markets associated with that. But then we have a couple of things that are still looming. The G20 meeting is happening in Brazil this week, and they're the top item on the agenda. Other than now the trade problems with the United States, the top item on the agenda was to be cryptocurrency. And the other thing that's happening this week is that Jerome Powell, who's the new Federal Reserve chairman, is going to make his first speech to the world about his policies and things like that. We're expecting a rate hike possibly in the United States. Actually, I think what it is 3 rate hikes are expected, but now they're thinking that there might be 4. So, so that would be the piece of news that the market would be looking for. So right now the markets are definitely suppressed, partly because of just the Google news, the Twitter news, and waiting for other things to happen. But I don't think it's going to come out as quickly as we think, because we do have this big news happening now at the end of March, and also it's the end of quarter. So yeah, it could be a little bumpy still.
I think you're right. I do have another piece of good news though. In Singapore, at the Money conference, the Money 2020 conference in Asia, the central bank announced that they're going to be planning international blockchain payment plans. So that's pretty cool. They're talking about, and this is on March the 15th, at the conference. The project is called Project UBIN, and they want to look at cross-border payments, speed and efficiencies, and no middlemen. So that's Singapore, as we've discussed before, very popular for ICOs being based there and being very forward-thinking again, looking to lead the way in the whole crypto world.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, Singapore is, I think they say it is the friendliest country for ICOs in the world.
Yes. I think very popular
to look at. And I actually have one last piece of good news as well. And maybe we could call it a good week, although we could argue that point probably. My last piece of good news is that China, again, a government-led investment association called the Chinese Investment Group announced that they were forming a blockchain, a blockchain focus, if you will, for this investment group, which has ties to the Chinese government. So China's been down on cryptocurrency since September, pretty much the same time frame as when the old central bank governor resigned and was stepping down. So maybe this investment group news combined with the new governor could be a real positive thing. And boy, would it help to have China come back into the cryptocurrency market strong, because that's one of the reasons why it grew as quickly as it did in 2018, or 2017, I should say. That's a Freudian slip. I'm hoping it obviously grows as quickly as it did in 2018, but I can't wait for the end of March. That's where I am right now.
Okay, well, I've got one little last story I have. It's bad news. It's actually, there's 2 bills in front of the U.S. Senate now. Just there, FOSTA and SESTA. It's called Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act. Now, you might say those are good things. And of course, Stop Sex Trafficking is a very good thing. But it's impacting the adult entertainment industry. And if you step back, we know that the adult entertainment industry has been very influential in fast-tracking a lot of technologies, like, live cams, live streaming, e-commerce, video spreading, and all the rest of it. So they have been very forward in that. But people who work in that industry tend not to be allowed to open ordinary fiat bank accounts. A lot of banks will not allow it. If they think you're a sex worker, or if you're an adult entertainment industry, you can't open accounts. So again, people in this industry have been very, very much forward, and they've embraced cryptocurrency really, really strongly. So it's a safe way for them to receive money. And the problem is, while the acts are very important, obviously there's no two ways about it, the way this laid out, again, is this lack of clarity. They're conflating sex workers with sex trafficking. So people working in the sex industry may be impacted by this law, which can put lawsuits on their websites and even on forums. So again, it's going back to the whole issue of, yes, obviously sex trafficking, we want to stop that, that's a given. But the lawmakers are being very blunt in their application, because they're not thinking beyond the whole scene. And again, sex workers always tend to be at the thin end of the wedge, and this again would impact their earning capacity. So that's not a good thing.
No, that's not. That's very negative for them as well. It's just,
yeah. It's, I mean, I don't want
regulation.
Yeah, it's a tough industry to be in, I think, without making it tougher again, you know.
Yeah.
So that's all my news.
Really, you had one more piece of good news for us.
Yeah, I have one more, and it's totally unrelated. Yesterday, on Paddy's Day, Ireland beat England to win the Grand Slam. Woo! In the rugby, woo! So I think the nation
who don't know, Ireland beat England in rugby yesterday to win the Grand Slam, which means that Ireland won 5 out of 5, right, matches against the rest of the 6 nation rugby teams, which is northern hemisphere.
And we've only won it 3 times since the competition started back in, I don't know, 100 years ago, whatever. Right. It was 2009 and then 1950, I think, the previous time. So it's a really big deal. So the whole country, and on Paddy's Day. And
I know, and in Twickenham.
And in Twickenham, I know. So what do you think? Is it a good week or a bad week then?
Oh, I don't know. On that note, I think we should call it a good week. But as far as cryptocurrency is concerned, we've lost 100 billion in market cap this week.
Yeah.
You know, thanks to Google, thanks to the uncertainty with all the news that's coming over the next couple of weeks. So by all accounts, it hasn't been a good week in crypto. But here's hoping for a better week next week.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Till. Talk to you next Sunday.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye.